And we should begin this session interceding Lord's grace, and let the Spirit be with us and guide us throughout, so that these days may be fruitful. I invite FMC novices to give us a prayer dance. Is there anyone who do not melt for music and dance? If there is anyone, please kindly meet the doctor. So everybody, even God melts. That's why King David danced and worshipped the Lord. I welcome the novices to perform the prayer dance. That was indeed prayerful. Thanks to the novices and all those trained them. And we get into the real business now. We request the esteemed guest to come on the dais. His Grace Archbishop Thomas SDB and Father Saju CMI President of. Just a minute. President of CRA and CRA Priest Section, and Father Lawrence SFX. We welcome Father George SJ to come on the dais. Father Susaimani SJ, the Vice President of Priest Section. Please be on. Whenever we have someone, it is the way we welcome, we'll say all about how we love them, how we care for them, how they are important to us. And here is a person, one and only Father Saju, to welcome our honored guests, as he is the right person and head of our family. So I invite Father Saju to do the needful.
Good morning once again. Your Grace, Most Reverend Archbishop Thomas Benamparapal, Reverend Father M.K. George, the keynote speaker of the day and the Assistant General of the Jesuits, Reverend Father Lawrence Fernandez, the Director of Pilar Pilgrim Center, Reverend Father Suseimani, Vice President, and Reverend Father Steve Rodriguez, who is also supposed to be here on stage, who will be moderating the keynote speech later, and my dear brothers. This General Body 2025 of CRI Priest Section is placed between the closing of the Synod on Synodality and the opening of Jubilee 2025. I'm told by some that in the recent past we have not had a meeting of this sort of CRI Priest Section, but I'm sure that in the early years it would have been already held. As we come together for this 3 days live together and serious deliberation, I'm reminded of the closing homily of Pope Francis of the Synod on Synodality. He said, "We do not need a sedentary and defeatist church, but a church that hears the cry of the world and gets its hands dirty in serving the Lord." He said, not a sedentary church, not a blind church, not a static church, but a church on her feet, a church that embraces the cry of humanity, and a church enlightened by Christ that brings the light of the gospel to others. And in this process, as we come together during this Jubilee 2025, we all know that Jubilee, as I indicated at the beginning of the Mass, is a time of grace. And we have the symbolic opening of the time of grace by the opening of the Holy Door in cathedrals. But this time Pope Francis has already opened other doors as well, indicating that it need not only be the door of the cathedral that could be symbolized as the Holy Door, but any door could be holy, provided it is able to facilitate grace. From that point of view, I believe even this gathering is a moment of grace for us as we come together and enhance our networking among consecrated priests. Now, on the 12th of September 2024, the Dicastery for Consecrated Life came up with a 2-page statement on the celebration of the Jubilee 2025 by consecrated communities. And in this little document, they have elongated the statement of Pope Francis as pilgrims of hope into pilgrims of hope on the path of peace, which we have now taken as the central theme of our discussion for these 3 days. And in this document, the Dicastery has given us 2 emphases. First, the emphasis on pilgrimage and the emphasis on anchoring. Pilgrimage, as we all know, indicates a movement towards the holy, a movement towards the grace. But I think for us, equally important is the anchoring. Because this anchoring shows the stability of our consecrated existence. Technically, anchor would refer to the steadfastness, the depth, and the unbreakable relationship that each of us is called to cultivate with the source of hope, Jesus Christ Himself. Now, there is a play between the pilgrimage and anchoring. Both should happen simultaneously, and only then it will become meaningful for us. Now, this reminds me of another statement from the recent encyclical of Pope Francis, Laudamus Delixit Nos. It's an extensive document, as we all know, but as I just read through, I found almost the last but one statement, 290, very telling. And if I just read it for you. The church also needs that love, lest the love of Christ be replaced with outdated structures and concerns, excessive attachment to our own ideas and opinions, and fanaticism in any number of forms, which end up taking the place of the gratuitous love of God that liberates, enlivens, brings joy to the heart, and builds communities. The wounded side of Christ continues to pour forth that stream which is never exhausted, never passes away, but offers itself time and time again to all those who wish to love as He did. For His love alone can bring about a new humanity. So we are invited to be anchored in the love of Jesus. But at the same time, we are insisted that we need to liberate ourselves from outdated structures and concerns, excessive attachment to our own ideas and opinions, and fanaticism. And His grace during the homily has already indicated that these are to be addressed. He has set the right tone for our deliberations. Now, being anchored in Christ and being engaged in the pilgrimage naturally insists that we should be on our mission. Now, many a time we are into mission, but we are comfortably settling ourselves with the comfort zones, people with whom we are comfortable, institutions which seem to be offering ministries which are not challenging. But then when we talk about the mission of the consecrated priests, as we are specifically called to be in this community, our mission shall not only be addressing to the insiders, but the distanced, the outsiders, and those who have gone astray. Because that was the mission of Jesus Himself, into which we are all called. And this is not an option, as we are the disciples of Christ. This is a mission that we have taken upon ourselves because we have been invited by the Lord. And therefore, we shall seriously take our mission and spend time during these 3 days to ensure that once again we are rekindled in that original spirit of the mission of the Lord. I feel, as we come together for these 3 days, we as consecrated priests in India, deliberating on the theme of being pilgrims of hope on the path of peace during Jubilee year 2025, every one of us is called to be compass and a catalyst of hope and peace in the world in which we live. And we know, as His grace has already pictured to us, we live in a world that is extensively torn apart through narrow-mindedness, sectarian ideologies, fanatic viewpoints, which are being now insisted upon as true doctrines, not only by the politicians, but even by every one of us, or most of us, the shepherds. Even I have come across with priests and bishops of the Catholic Church who seem to be becoming agents of the ills that inflame divisive tendencies in the society. And therefore we need to address ourselves. And that is precisely why I call upon our community to become the compasses of hope. We need to direct the community to the source of hope, to Jesus Himself. We need to direct ourselves and our community members to hope that is available in the society, but the true hope. And if we can be the compasses of hope, I believe we would definitely be the catalysts of peace as well. We all believe that both hope and peace stem from that ultimate source which we now identify in the person of Jesus Christ himself. And that's why I said earlier, it's not optional, it is necessary mandate for every one of us as disciples of Christ and also as consecrated priests and religious. I'm very hopeful that the coming together of, let's say, 60 to 70 of us will definitely make an impact, not only among us, the consecrated priests, but also among the people at large, in those communities and institutions where we render our ministries. In other words, the inspiration that we receive to be the compasses and catalysts of hope and peace should reverberate wherever we are, in our communities, in our institutions, in all our ministries. It is with this great hope that we convene this general body of CRI priest section, and I am so glad, as I said at the beginning of the Mass, we have gracious people who have joined us as resource persons. Before I welcome these gracious people, I want to thank those novices of the FMCK sisters who had already danced for us and led us into prayer. Very especially, I want to thank the novice mistress and Sister Flory, FMCK, who is also the president of the CRI Goa unit. It was she who facilitated this for us. Thanks to Sister Flory, the novice mistress, and the novices. Now we have His Grace Archbishop, Most Reverend Thomas Menam Parable, Archbishop Emeritus of Guwahati with us. He has been living in the Northeast for last 75 years. Last 75 long years. Professed in 1955, ordained in 1965, the year in which I was born. Consecrated a bishop in 1981 and transferred to Guwahati in 1992, made an archbishop in 1995 and retired in 2012. Retired but not tired. He travels far and wide to preach retreats, to attend conferences. Yesterday, during our conversation, he said, when he is not traveling, almost daily he spends 10 to 12 hours working, reading, researching, writing, and speaking. You know his age? He is 89. At the age of 89, he is one of the most active bishops. And his interests, prayer, missionary work, social values, leadership, culture, peace, reconciliation, inter-community and inter-religious dialogue. And I'm so happy that he has been involved in a number of peace initiatives and reconciliation processes. He is a proponent of intercultural conversations, particularly in the Northeast India. And I'm so glad to state that Archbishop Thomas Menam had personally visited Manipur at least 6 times during this present conflict, and we thank you for that. I've known the Archbishop for years in the context of Tamara, and I've listened to him many times. And every time he has been very inspiring, as most of you have responded today after the homily. It was very inspiring, very thought-provoking, and contextual. I'm so glad that he graces this inaugural session, and he would be offering the inaugural address during this meeting. In the name of CRI Priest Section, very especially also in the name of CRI Executive Council, may I extend to His Grace Most Reverend Thomas Namparable, Archbishop Emeritus of Guwahati, a very cordial welcome to this gathering. Father Susie Mani, the Vice President of the Archery Section, welcome, sir. Thank you. I'm also very glad that we have an illustrious consecrated person in Father M.K. George, who is present with us to offer the keynote address. Father M.K., as he is widely known, is the General Council of Jesuits. He is specifically in charge as a regional assistant for South Asia, former provincial of Jesuit Kerala province, and the director of Indian Social Institute. Father M.K. is known for his bold and courageous stand on social issues, Christian witness, and he has been bold enough also to speak up when there are serious controversial issues within the church. Fearless to speak to the powers that be. Father M.K. has made an impact. I'm sure that his training as a social scientist and his conviction as a disciple of Christ make the difference. Father George is widely known both among the Jesuits and among the people known to him for his personal credibility and authenticity of his statements. And he graces us today with his presence. I'm so glad that Father Susaimani identified that Father M.K. would be available during this time of the year in India, otherwise he lives in Italy. We are so glad. Father M.K. George, in the name of every one of us gathered here, we extend to you a very cordial welcome to our gathering. Here is a person whom I need not welcome because he is the boss of the house. In the person of Reverend Father Lawrence Fernandez, SFX. He is the Delegate Superior and the Director of Pilar Pilgrim Center. And we have been in touch with Father Lawrence for more than 3-4 months now. And I in fact personally met him last month when I came over here. Father Lawrence ensured that everything is so well organized for a comfortable stay and content of the whole program. The entire facilities here at Pilar Pilgrim Center have been made available to us so graciously and generously. And the entire team of Father Lawrence has been working for last 1 week to ensure that everything is well set for our program. We are grateful to Father Lawrence and also to Father Superior General and the community of the Pilar Fathers for welcoming us to this center and also for facilitating the whole program. And in the name of all of us gathered here around Father Lawrence, a very cordial welcome to this inaugural session, because I cannot welcome you to the house to this session. Briefly, I also extend a very cordial welcome to all the members of the Executive Council, starting with Father Susaimani, Father Davis, Father Agnel. One among us, Father Jerome, is admitted in the hospital. Unfortunately, he is not present, but his delegate is with us. And I'm glad that some of the resource persons are already with us, in the persons of Dr. Tony Sam George, Father Gaurav Joseph, OFM Capuchin, Father Paulson Velliyanur of the CMF congregation, and the others are yet to arrive. They will be introduced later, but may I extend to all of them a very cordial and warm welcome to this gathering of the CRIP session. Dear friends, this is a Kairos extended into 3 days. A providential time, a graceful time for all of us. But our coming together is a testimony of the necessity of networking our communion as consecrated persons, particularly as consecrated priests. We can do our mission individually, but then our mission can make an impact when we are a collective network. If we stay together, the mission of Christ will definitely be far more vibrant than it used to be. Calling upon every one of us to be more effectively networked, especially through this time spent here at Pilar Center for the next 3 days, and wishing God's grace in our community amidst us, not only these 3 days, but all through. May I remain. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father Raju, for your wonderful address and welcoming all of us wholeheartedly. Thank you. Now is the time to listen to a great person who has tons of experience, so many years of his experience in various fields. And I welcome, without taking much time, our Archbishop to address us all.
Paper of mine behind which can be distributed, I will be happy. Since the text of the paper is with you, even if my presentation is not so adequate in a given time, I hope some will at least read through. My request is at least you read through it once, but I know that a proportion of you will not do. In a small proportion does read, I am satisfied, because that's what you can expect. I will begin with a story. It's a peace march in Guwahati, march along the streets of Guwahati. There was one Father C.T. Lucas, if anyone knows him. He was in Kazakh, walking along with a crowd. There was a Swamiji nearby. After a while, the Swamiji said, "Father, you are a Catholic father." "Yes, sir." "Father, you all are genuine. We are pretenders." He was very humble in saying that we are not pretenders. But that was very moving for Father Lucas when he later on told to us. You all are genuine. We are not saying anyone else is not genuine. This is precisely, he says, I know the Catholic fathers, they are genuine. We pray that this be true. That's what we are going to discuss about. We're going to speak about peace and hope for peace, because we are in a hopeless situation. The morning we spoke about that hopeless situation in various contexts. Ukraine, where 70,000 people were killed, violence in the text, if the text is with you, 10 million people fled their homes. The entire world is longing for peace. 20,000 young people were studying, Indians were studying in Ukraine. We did not realize that. We are not depending only on US or UK and EU and China, for example. More than 20,000 studying medicine in China. In Wuhan University, where the COVID came from, that area. And 20,000 were studying in Ukraine. We hardly realized. The other day when 10 Indians were killed in Georgia, we realized what all countries our people are working in a hotel. And so we have become mutually dependent. Yes, in the emerging world we have become more and more dependent on each other. Germany on Russian soil or oil. America or Chinese consumer goods, people who are at tension just now, India on Russian weapons, French fighter jets, Chinese medical ingredients, and on oil from Iraq, Syria, and UAE. All of us are dependent on each other. When the supply chain is disrupted, prices go up. Life becomes impossible. Recognition of our interdependence is the first step towards peace. George Bush wanted to crush terrorism. War on terrorism. He created millions more of terrorists in the world, beginning from Nigeria on one side, West Africa to Indonesia and then the Philippines. More volunteers came to fight in Afghanistan or wherever it was required. So they succeeded in doing exactly what they wanted to do, to provoke America to action so that they could also invite Muslim radicals to come into action. We need in this world to cultivate hope. We are told that the Palestinian Christians held on to hope. Osvaldo Romano, just the other day, January 6th, it was truly a hope against hope. But it has been fulfilled, ceasefire has come. We need agents of peace today, builders of hope. In Palestine, in Ukraine, Myanmar, and Manipur, we said, and scores of other places. Referring to Manipur, next week or 2 weeks from now, we're going to have a meeting in Dibrugarh, again in Guwahati, and some other places in a desperate effort for peace, but peace is not coming because guardians of peace are against peace. That's precisely the reason. Indian Christian intellectuals have a sturdy message, is inspired by God's word. Religious leaders have chosen this as their mission, this mission as their vocation by their very profession. One thing is, today the fighter is the hero. For more than a century, Darwin, the teachings of Darwin, Marx, Nietzsche, fascist and Nazi philosophers have so much brainwashed us, whether it be liberation theology, Latin America, or whatever. But the fighter is the hero today. Peacemaker is marginalized. What makes good news is confrontation, condemnation, denouncing the other, exposing. Then we forget that French Revolution that announced liberty and freedom, liberty, fraternity, and equality. So there is repetition of the word, sorry. Took away 250,000 lives. We are beginning to forget there are certain basic skills in tradition in all cultures. Even you call warrior races, they also have skills of peace, showing sympathy, dialoguing, arguing amicably, avoiding aggressive vocabulary, inviting compromise, insisting on gentler solutions. In page 3, I try to say where youth proportion is high in any civilization, in any country, there is possibility of violence. Due to poverty, joblessness, and desperation of young people, they join any highly motivated group, including violent group. I will not go into the details of it. American miscalculations. We said, we refer to George Bush's announcement, he wanted to kill terrorism. And they killed very large number of people, harmless people. Young people who are fighting, that is true, I agree. But when you talk to many of these individuals, they say they are not bad-willed people. They are good people but misled. They don't want Islamic sympathy. And Pakistan has taught India to be radical And America, that was patronizing Pakistan, discovered too late that they are also after these Islamic goals. China, whom they encouraged against Russia, has become a competitor, and today to them it appears like a threat. Majoritarianism, that was a weakness in the Middle East, now has become the strong point of so many countries, including America, Europe, India, apologetically, and places like Turkey or Hungary and other places. Rise of majoritarianism. Anyone who is not with me is against me. If that is the attitude, when Jesus said, I brought to the tax collectors and sinners, they who are not doing well, they need love, they need attention. Radical Islam has taught Hindus who are not by nature violent, has radicalism imparted radical Hindus to Buddhists, Sri Lanka or Myanmar, and also now other places. And if blasphemy laws that sounding like anachronistic in modern times, or moral policing, or cow defense, how anachronistic it is. People who are far away, even backward African countries, are wondering, you are worshipping cows. They are not able to understand. Just understand what is the meaning of this. And top thinkers. And we have got people who dictate to others what they should think, they should write, they should eat, what should drink, what they should wear. And they call secular people and pseudo-secularists. Christian aid agencies that encourage broader thinking, deeper thinking, are ostracized. Meantime, and their funds related to the men for them, they cannot reach their destination. Whereas Hindutva groups are getting help from NRIs, huge amounts. Whether they are using it for harassing Christians or cow worshippers, we are not certain, but we realize that we are going far away from the ideals of Mahatma Gandhi, Tagore, Nehru, and Patel. And we are moving on to the teachings of Ramdas, Pilar, and Savarkar. Ramdas, a Brahmin leader of Mughal times, said, meet boldness with boldness, villainy with villainy. Shivaji, well known for having killed Afzal Khan, of course it is justified in a particular context. Tilak, growing up in similar surroundings, said, truth has no place in politics. We need to be pragmatic. Thorn, take away the thorn by a thorn. Eye for an eye. Everything is fair in politics. Mahatma Gandhi said, this is not right. You are exaggerating. And he replied, politics is not for sadhus. And Savarkar said, fight fire with fire. Savarkar told an American journalist who asked him, how will you treat the Muslims when you get independence, when you will be free? Like a minority, as you treat the Negroes in your country. Very blunt. Our great leaders like Amit Shah and Yogi can be very blunt. Bangladeshi refugees are cockroaches, termites. There is a story how the Brahmins integrated India through Puranas. India was very different. There were different ethnic groups who were not Christian. Aryan groups in the Doab at the beginning considered the whole of rest of India as Mlecha Desh, beyond the Doab, between Ganga and Jamuna. Our civilization of that small group has been imposed on the whole of India. And we are not realizing it. The dominant group that is dictating things today through Purana stories that were able to integrate all local gods and goddesses. And where you say Rama lived in your place and he was on this hill, Pandavas, they were moving into this territory and giving names. So many names are being changed, even in Guwahati. I know a place called after Amri Kardi village, the Amri Gaon, now become Hastinapur. Once it adopts a Sanskrit name, it goes into the official text. They forget about Amri Gaon. Amri Kardi, tribal people were there. Now they are very few, but then names are being changed in different parts of India. Certain anthropologists or sociologists, Qatar said, even in the south of India, so many names are being changed even to our own days. When a Sanskrit name is applied, that adopted, that becomes the official word. Puranas were able to accommodate the incarnation of Vishnu was born here and Shiva was born there and so on. And Brahmin Baniya opportunism, I will not go into it, but when the Aryan rulers, Kshatriyas expanded their empire in the rest of India from Doab gradually to the east, into Bihar and to Bengal, took some time. Buddhist strongholds in all those areas. And the south of India, Buddhism spread very fast as a fear of the aliens. Allow me to expose one of my theories. Buddha was a tribal, just like Northeast Indian tribal Mongoloid community. Bihar to the west belonged to Mongoloid and Austroasiatic, the Vadivasi Santal community. Little to the south, the Austroasiatic, little to the north of Mongoloid. It was a tribal belt in Buddha's time. You can look at the early maps of the various groups there. Now, all that has been wiped out took time. Shankaracharya was the great hero who taught a new philosophy, but also suppressed, indirectly or directly, through violence as well, Buddhism. Some 20,000 giant shrines have been destroyed in Karnataka according to historic reports, just to tell. So, if Birjafar betrayed India, his ancestor, his grandfather came from Iraq. He was kind of foreigner, newly settled in India. Jagat Seth, who subsidized Battle of Plassey, he's a native, he's a Hindu, he's a let's say, Vaishya, a Baniya, who steadily supported the British in early stages, Clive and his other groups. Which means to say, who betrayed India? Is it a Muslim, Mir Jafar, or Jagat Seth, who financed the entire endeavor, not only in that individual case, in many others? There was a collaboration between the high caste Hindus and the British. They never destroyed temples. They even financed it. They even took part in, not in the worship part, but they took part in the worship events, early days, till people were able to say, Company Raj is Brahmin Raj. And there was increasing popularity in the later stage. I am summarizing what I said, but till Brahmin Baniya hegemony, page 6, trying to show that the high classes dominated the land for hundreds of years. Modiji speaks about 1,000 years of slavery in Islam and other outsiders, but Dalit can complain about 3,500 years of slavery, of domination, which is not yet lifted. Liberation has not come when independence came. Liberation did not come exactly when the temple was built, as Bhagavad was saying, Mohan Bhagavad said, really, the liberation came when the temple was built. On the contrary, we are waiting for it. And that's where we are, helping the people of the humbler society to come up, to be equal, not to surpass. But what happens is when individuals do come up from the humbler society, they adopt the Brahmin pose. They take the Brahminic posture and value systems. And this is our collective weakness. Politicians are on sale. I try to say how it is also happening in America. There is a little study paper here referring to Yascha Mount, the German American, who has systematically studied, says politicians are on sale, they can belong to any party. And once elected, the companies dictate to them to, for example, to suppress debates, pack judiciary, reduce social welfare, and encourage privatization, raise the prices so that ordinary people are taxed and the well-to-do people make money. And we have all of us have become opportunists, including religious leaders, and maybe including bishops also. We become opportunists, and that may be something humiliating for us. I try to argue in page 19 that 19th and 20th century drama in Europe, when European nations clashed, that primarily is being created in India today. India, Pakistan, India, China, and also postures all over the Pacific Rim. Each one is affirming themselves and their pride and their ancient greatness. Europe is happening. So there's a return. We have forgotten already the harm that was done during the last World War and Holocaust and Hiroshima and so on. It has become part of history. Curiosity. We need therefore people who are once again aware of the evil of violence. Asians have not learned from the negative experience of the last century Europe. Citizens must become vocal. We also must become vocal, not in the aggressive tone, not as though we are absolutely right, but we can make people think. I always differ from those who say prophetic voice means denounce like some prophets did. Jesus also is quoted as having said, I remember one Hasidic scholar who studied the Bible says, Father, where Jesus is denouncing the other, in my opinion, that is not Jesus' words. Others are put it in his mouth. Because when you look at the rest of his life, he never denounced. He made people think. Our prophetic mission is making people think. Are we right? Could we be different? Can we act differently? Self-criticism is required for society as a whole. Where, for example, Raja Mohan Roy, he invited self-criticism, looking at the British and missionary teachings. He also adopted Hinduism. He measured religion by ethical yardstick. You must be ethically right. Banned sati, against superstition. He preferred Upanishads rather than Vedas with many superstitions and stories and legends and so on. He wanted to rationalize Hinduism. He considered the Brahmins have degraded Hinduism according to him. We did not agree with everything that he said, but there was criticism from within society. And so when we hear of wars between the gods and the demons in Puranas, we must think of aliens humiliating and defeating and crushing the indigenous people. Those south of India, many tribal groups, they were a little more indeed. We also are migrants from Africa. I think you are very well aware. We are all from Africa. About 70,000 years ago, some families moved out from Africa to the Middle East. There is the rest of the Bible stories and all begin from there only. And some came to India and then to Andamans and Australia. Dravidians came a little later. Aryans came much later. So they crushed the indigenous people who are gone before. And at a given time, the Brahmins who therefore made integrated the rest of India with Puranic stories and legends and so on, a Sanskritic togetherness imposed a kind of society, if not through violence, but quasi-violence. Our Indian violence is precisely this. Individual killing is limited, but harassment continues for Christians continuously. Individual incidents do take place, but harassment is constant, interfering with our finances, with our visitors who might come from other parts of India, meetings that are being held, we are being overheard, we do not know who is sitting behind, who is taking note of what we say, and so on. In 1902, Maharaja of Jaipur wanted to take part in the coronation of Edward VII, and he prepared several vessels to travel to England and a big number of cows, because he had to eat, he had to drink pure milk, not this Farangi kind of thing. The negative word that is being used, these polluted drinks of the West, I must say pure milk. It took Raja Rama tried, took a cow when he went. And he was very modern, but he did. He was Brahminic as well, just to tell. And there is a big list there. Manu Pillai gives a list of people who went to Europe those days with cows in order to make sure that they are eating pure food. And when we look back, we say so many, almost 4 million or 5 million Americans, Indian Americans today, are they taking the cows from here? But just to tell how antiquated those ideas were, and do we realize when we exaggerate about the cow and the cow and the cow? Amit Shah's way, you are repeating Ambedkar and Ambedkar and Ambedkar, there is enough. He was saying, well, and you are repeating the cow and the cow and the cow. Even the most backward communities in the most backward parts of the world are questioning privately. They are out of kind of respect, they are not asking publicly, and they are not realizing. Disaster overtakes those who fail to criticize themselves. And I give some examples of how that collapse, economic collapse of 2008, there was, after Berlin Wall, free trade, free marketing was the philosophy, absolute philosophy. It was the Bible truth. But then 1997, there was the Asian collapse that did not make the West think. 2008, there was a big collapse. And according to some scholars, like the World War was the beginning or the end of colonialism. 2008 is the beginning of the end of also economic domination of the West, according to some thinkers. And I also you must take it seriously. We, especially south of India, is about 20-30 years behind Europe only. The good things happen there is already beginning to happen. Bad things happening there, population fall and fertility fall and other things are thought-provokers for us. And for Christian communities more in the south, educationally more advanced, very many other ways we are following certain negative trends in other parts of the world, not to make us think. What is balanced thinking is important, I don't know, around 5 minutes. Moderation, middle path. We Indians stand for the middle path. We went for communism, but we did not go exaggerated way. Even in Calcutta, during the peak period of this Marxism, they had trouble, but they also respected us. They also didn't go to exaggerate. So in Kerala, elsewhere, they did not go like in Eastern Europe or something of the kind. So we generally choose the middle path. Now we seem to be capable of exaggeration as well. Manmohan Singh, Rao stood for the middle path of concern for the poor, for justice. Don't go. We go for marketing, openness to market, but not to there should be some regulation. Thinking is required, if not just a socialistic pattern of society of Peru, but at least attention to the weaker sections. And there is no purpose in being looking for Vishwa Guru or Akhanda Bharat and passing glory. We look at the history of any civilization, any dominant country, for a while they flourished, but then their own mistakes, their own success lead them to failure. I can write one book on this. Success leads to failure. It's the first step towards failure because it becomes swollen-headed. And we are aware of it. We Indians are supposed to be intelligent. I remember one scholar from China telling me, he's swearing, you Indians have taught us for 1,000 years, with respect, genuinely. Buddhists and Brahmin scholars were crowding in China at a given time, thousands years. That is true. But we are swollen-headed people certain times, and we are moving in that direction just now. Beware of nationalism built on grievances. Not only Ayodhya, they need also Mathura and Kashi. And they want 100 other places. They want many other places in Goa as well. They will revive one after the other. And they forget a deeper thing. Almost all important Hindu shrines are built on Buddhist shrines, on Jain shrines. And they are built on tribal holy places. If you go to Puri, you will find an image there, I forget, some elephant or something symbolizing one religion, but it shows Hinduism, but below that it was Buddhist. Before that it was a tribal holy place. Kamakhya was a tribal holy place, and so on. So please return them to tribal communities. If anybody argues of Buddhism, well, Buddhists and Jains will not go too vocal in India because they are not physically safe. Individually, even I remember one Buddhist nun telling me, please, we cannot say these things too loud, but we are even now limited by other stronger forces. History repeats itself. I am quoting Pankaj Mishra, who wrote the book of anger, Age of Anger. He says, what happened in Europe in the colonial period when adventurers and rowdies were coming to colonial areas to rule and to exploit people. Now, others don't have the same chance, they are going for violence in their own country. So it's very interesting to say how natural tendency of human persons are the same. Earlier in Europe, youth explosion, they were in the colonial period. Now that there is the Middle East and Africa, especially youth explosion, they are going into violence, or violence against neighbors. Primary goal of arms production should be self-defense. But how much of violence against others? American arms used in the Middle East being sold to negative markets right up to Myanmar and to African countries, rebel groups and people, opposition parties and so on. I end with the show us the way, the invitation. Please show us the way, you religious group. And we have the story where that Swamiji was saying, you people are genuine. Let us prove ourselves this statement true, that we are genuine, we mean well, and we are self-critical, and we are correcting ourselves. We realize we don't have all knowledge. Prophetic as though I am perfectly right, you are completely wrong, will not go today. But I will think with you. Can I think with you? I find it very hard to accept this opinion of yours. Shall we reflect a little deeper? That kind of a prophetic vocation can we have, in which we are teachers and learners at the same time. Well, Buddha did precisely this. If you go very carefully through his life, you will find he was a co-thinker with his students. Let us think together. Jesus said, Simon, what do you think? And then very many places where Jesus invited thought. He was making them think it is true, but he was with them like kind of equal, like brothers together. We need peacemakers today. I begin to give a lot of examples. People who sympathize with the wrongdoer. I found these violent groups with which I had some dealings in 10 or 12 violent coalitions among tribal people, so we could always have certain amount of about approachability to different people. We found when they were fighting, they were not wicked people, they were used by a particular ideology, some particular leader, political interest for next election and so on. But what they would appreciate is person who esteems him, esteems them. Not the wrong thing they do, but esteems persons and groups and communities and humbler communities. Maybe have that ability to listen to others when we teach and to accept other people who are right when they are right, even though we seem to have prophetic insights. On December 4th, with this I end, Pope Francis pleaded for peace in Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, Myanmar. He said, I add also Manipur. He was emotionally moved. Too many lives are being lost in this civilized period. What things happen in Gaza? Uncivilized way of dealing with each other. Humanity has come to that low state condition. War is human defeat. Pope Francis is saying it does not solve problems. War is evil. War destroys. War, not only violent war, but world war, arrogance, ill-treatment of others, humiliation of other communities. He prayed for martyred Ukraine. May peace come to Ukraine as it did come to Gaza. Writing to Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew, he called to witness to fraternity. That's what we would like to realize during the coming 3 days. He invites us to hold on to hope, stand erect, hold your head high, because your salvation is near. Very powerful. If you read the Quran, I often quoted this. When you are sure of yourself, not you are right, somebody is with us. You have hope. Let us be builders of hope in the hearts of people as we tirelessly labor for peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, His Grace, Archbishop Thomas, for giving all of us hope to be the builders of hope. So, I request now Father Steve to be on the stage as a moderator for the next session. Meanwhile, we have just 1 minute of stretching break. We are not going out, so that we can contain the next session also. Meanwhile, I'll ask a question to refresh you all, okay? Whoever answers, there are some of my disciples are here, please do not answer, others can answer. You know, in those days, the kings have planted trees in the side of the roads, right? You know why? Why the kings planted trees in the both sides of the roads? Huh? Yeah, why the kings planted the trees in the sides of the roads those days? No? Yes, Father.
They couldn't plant them in the middle of the road.
Yes, if they plant in the middle, vehicles cannot go. No, so they planted at the sides of the roads. And you know, why in India we have the custom like men tie thali to women? Stretch already 1 minute is over. Only 1 more minute is there, please. Because if they don't tie, it will fall down, no? So that's why they tie. So now I welcome Father Steve to take us forward.
Good morning, consecrated people. Well, I'm so very happy to come on the stage here to introduce our friend M.K. George. But before that, it was an English class, and so English grammar. The teacher was asking the children, little children, their names and from where they were. So a teacher asked the little one, "What's your name?" And the little one said, "I'm Johnny." And so the teacher asked again another question, "Little Johnny, where were you born?" And little Johnny answered, "I was born in, where is that? Thiruvananthapuram." Did I say it correctly? Thiruvananthapuram. Because it was a grammar class, the teacher said, "Spell it. Spell Thiruvananthapuram." The boy was a thinker, as the bishop said. Thinker, so he said, Teacher, I think I was born in Goa." I don't know the age of M.K. George. I don't know when he was ordained and whatever. But he told me to be very, very brief. And I have some very few information about him, but you can meet him in person and ask about his all degrees, so many degrees. Anyways, M.K. George is one of the general counselors and regional assistants to the Jesuit Superior General in Rome. I think that's why he lives in Rome. And earlier he was the provincial of Kerala Jesuits. With masters in, is it anthropology? I don't even know how to pronounce anthropology, and in sociology, he did his doctorate in educational backwardness of marine fish workers, and was the principal of Loyola College Trivandrum. He has coordinated a number of research projects while in Loyola and in Indian Social Institute, particularly in participatory research and international visiting professor at Holy Cross, Father said it's enough, Holy Cross College in USA. Okay, to cut. Recently, he has authored the book Religiously Political and Politically Religious in 2003. The other books are on family matters and another Malayalam word, Tentulikal, based on his experience in family counseling and talks on the radio, All India Radio. He has been a regular columnist on family matters in New Leader, published from Chennai. Other things you can meet Father and inquire. I wish all the best to Father. I will give him a warm welcome to speak to us on the topic consecrated life, the prospects and challenges of consecrated life in the third millennium. Over to you, Father.
So, my dear friends, I'm extremely happy to be here with you all, reflecting on this topic, challenges to the consecrated life in the third millennium. I have called it the call to birth new in Christ. I want to begin by thanking God for bringing us together, and a very special word of thanks to Father Saju and Father Suse Madi. Father Saju I've met many times, especially in Bangalore at the academic level. That's why probably he called me also. Now, I want to, and I pray especially through the intercession of Francis Xavier, that our session, our meetings may become fruitful. I've been a teacher for 20-25 years, but they still complain that I'm too fast and I follow my last words. If I do either of them, please feel free to raise your hand, that I know that I'm too fast or swallowing my last words. Now, I want to begin with a couple of anticipatory bail statements, what I call. One is, I have a complaint. The Archbishop has stolen my keynote address. His sermon has been a synopsis, so therefore you can have a typical Ignatian, so I won't take my 30 minutes, I can be even briefer. Ignatian repetition, so therefore you will hear a lot of things that he has told from me also. That is one thing. A second thing is, I have a very strong feeling, and that's the reason I wanted to be with you today, with us together, that I have a very strong feeling that religious life, consecrated religious life, is at a critical moment of history where either we can make a difference or we can be absolutely betrayers of history. This is my very strong conviction. The choice for us is either to make a difference or to be betrayers of history. History will remain that religious leaders at this particular time of history has betrayed us. So the choice is ours. And one prayer that I have is that we together decide to make a difference. Third anticipatory veiled statement is, if at any time I sound too critical, if anybody feels I'm too critical, I'm not criticizing persons, I'm only criticizing what I call I am only criticizing our own systems that we are sustaining. Systems may have been given to us, but we are helping to sustain. And the last thing I want to say is I want to recall a story. When I was a junior, I was still young. I was scholastic studying in the Chennai Loyola College. The superior there, for some reason, was very advanced. For our monthly recollection, he called the professor of social work department to give us points. Unbelievable. I'm talking about the 80s. And the professor of social work department, I forget his name, he came and then he told us, you Jesuits, you call yourselves companions of Jesus. Poor Jesus, he's in very bad company. So you know where you are today also, okay? And there is a strong gut level conviction in me, and that most of you will agree with me, that is that as men of faith, we know is it going back or as men of faith, we know every moment in our life, which means also this moment, is a new call. A new call for a new birthing. So, a new transformation. But in order to understand that call, to hear the call, we need to listen. Remember the words of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, which you see on the slide. Earth is crammed with heaven, and every moment and every common bush afire with God. But only he who sees takes off the shoes, the rest sit around and pluck blackberries. So I invite all of us to a moment of silence. I'll request you to become quiet for a moment. Close your eyes for a moment. And ask for the grace to listen to the words that the Lord is whispering in your hearts, not to my words. As you listen to the bishop, as you listen to me, what is the Lord telling you in your depth of your hearts? What is the prompting of the Spirit in your hearts, in our hearts? Pray for the grace that we will listen to the Spirit. Thank you. We move on. This is the kind of outline that I want to share. Very simple outline. I want to look at the context in the typical Ignatian contemplation on incarnation. How many of you have done an Ignatian retreat? How many have not done? Anybody who has not done Ignatian retreat? Oh, many of you. Right, okay. I hope you do it. It's worth it. Now, in one of the contemplations on incarnation, you know what happens is, the Holy Trinity looks down on the world. And the Trinity sees men active, some running around, some giving birth, some dying, some making love, some doing war, and then so much of confusion. And God the Father decides to send down the Spirit. He feels compassion for the universe and He sends down the Son to the humanity. That is the way Ignatius introduces incarnation. Now, taking the cue, we look at the context. This is where the Archbishop has already given a lot of things, especially the political changes. I want to look at the whole complete context of the climate change. I want to begin with the climate change because that's going to end the world even before we know about it. Then the artificial intelligence, political changes, violence, wars, modern day slavery, growing inequality, Catholic Church, etc. So therefore, I want to look at it and then move on to what is a call to consecrated life and concrete challenges that we have, practical things. We'll have a small 1 minute sharing after this calls to this one, so that 5 of you can share. So the good that the arrangement is good. That way we can share among yourselves. So let me begin with the climate change. Some of you may have visited Los Angeles. This was Los Angeles before the recent fire. This is after the fire. And one of the climate scientists who said, our dream of California is up in smoke. We have thrown an entire planet out of balance. Now we are suffering the consequences. Weather patterns, we have no idea how to combat them. We have absolutely no idea how to combat them. And the resulting fires, floods, hurricanes, more than anything, there's been more than anything that we have seen before. Now, even the most uneducated person knows about climate change now. The temperatures are rising, and the way, if we are to believe some of these doomsayers, if this climate change, the warming of the earth is going to be like this, even in 20, 30 years, the earth can have very serious impact. We are already facing it. Just some data. Over 2 billion people have already had problems with drinking water. Climate change only. Half of the world's population could be living in areas facing water scarcity by this year, 2025. Half of the world's population. 700 million people could be displaced by intense water scarcity by 2030. Those who are living in Bangalore or lived in Bangalore, they say they have severe shortage of water. By 2040, roughly 1 in 4 children worldwide will be living in areas extremely high water stress. Just one example. This whole climate change is going to be extremely challenging, destructive, and we don't know what to do. Artificial intelligence. I'm sure many of you are already using it. How many of you have used artificial intelligence as a chatbot? Could you raise your hands? There's more than half. More than half. 2 years ago, one Jesuit, when I had to give a keynote address to a sociology conference, I was in Trichy, and I was saying I didn't have time to prepare. And then I told the Jesuit, he said, don't worry, you don't know about this artificial intelligence chatbot. And first time he introduced me, and and my topic was technology and society. I just typed in, give me a keynote address of 30 minutes on technology and society. I had a beautiful lecture. And you know what I did? I told my students, when I presented the keynote, I said, this is not my talk, it is a talk prepared by artificial intelligence. A brilliant talk. I didn't have to do any work, a brilliant talk, only I had to add some humor. Now, the point is, remember that the conflicting opinions. See, Stephen Hawking seemed to have said, the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. It would take off its own and redesign itself in an ever-increasing rate. Humans who are limited by slow biological evolution couldn't compete and would be superseded. Pope Francis, his own words, while he acknowledges that artificial intelligence is radically affecting the world of information and communication, and through it, certain foundations of life and society, and these stages would affect anyone. But the question he asks is, does it serve to satisfy the needs of humanity, to improve the well-being and integral development of people? Or does it only serve to enrich and increase the already high power of the few technological giants despite the dangers to humanity? So the greatest challenge we face is to remain humans. This is from an recent editorial in Truth and Light. The author says, the greatest challenge we face is to remain humans who enjoy independent thinking and free will. Media brings us lies and fake news in every very attractive packaging. Besides a deep commitment to truth, it now also requires hard work to dig through the high mountain of falsehood created by fake media to get to it. Unless we remain at it, we will become machines that run on software created by the technologies in which we invested so much of our effort and ingenuity to create. And there is a need for education. People will need a lot more of education and training to take full advantage of artificial intelligence immense power, so that they aren't just bored aside by it. For every $1 spent on machine learning technology, $9 will have to be spent on intangible human capital. But the crucial question, who will pay? I'm not going to spend too much time on this one because the Bishop has already talked about it's a violent world that we live in. We are clear, we have seen these images. Just the data, there are 110 wars going on now. Some of them are as old as 50 years. Then, the refugees and migrants. 2021 statistics says 122.6 million refugees. 8,565 died last year. Half of them in the Mediterranean Sea. So they are all going to the Europe. And by the way, remember, these are only official statistics. Official statistics always reduces the amount. Then, migrants now account for 281 million. And migrants and refugees are facing increasingly hostile responses from host nations. Millions will now suffer more intensely than ever. This image, I don't know how many of you saw that. It's so painful. See, they're being chained. They're being tied up. And Brazil has demanded an explanation from Donald Trump as reported events to arrive in handcuffs. This is what's happening now. Then, modern slavery. An estimated 50 million people are living in modern slavery on any day in 2021. This is really 1 in 150 people in the world. Modern slavery is hidden in plain sight and is deeply intertwined with life in every corner of the world. And women and children form the bulk of such slaves. Human trafficking. Human trafficking is one of the fastest growing crimes, along with drugs and arms trafficking, and a highly profitable business generating an estimated $150 billion in profits each year. Human trafficking thrives on poverty, conflict and climate change. Exploitation and forced labor are primary purposes of trafficking. Organ selling is equally common. We have already talked about it. The Bishop, see the poor and hungry. Only one sentence I want to repeat. That is this one. Even as the world produces enough food for all, not food, sorry, food for all, 733 million go hungry, and most of them are women and children. Out of 27 children will die before reaching 5 years. Almost 50% death of children is due to hunger issues. Rich versus poor. Again, the bishop has already referred to that. See, the richest 10% of the world corner 52% of the income, whereas the poor just get 8% of the income. Politically, the rise of right wing. Already, the bishop has excellently put in his paper, especially the historical part. Oligarchy. This is one book, I don't know how many. Our general made us read a book called Main's book, The Revenge of Power. He made every councillor read the whole full book, and we had a 1 week session on that. He says the world is ruled by 3 P's now: populism, polarization, and post-truth. It's an amazing insight. A populist, we know, we have our own Prime Minister there, we have Orban there, we have Trump there, everybody, we know so many of them. They say what they want and all of us believe it. Then, polarization, everybody, again Bishop spoke about, I don't need to go elaborate on it. They divide and rule. And post-truth, that's the worst part of it. There's nobody talks about truth now. What I say is right. And therefore, and the oligarchy, this is, again with Trump's coming, let me read this out to you. Zuckerberg kissed the ring of Trump, and Julia Anban reported in the New York Times on the 13th of January, a kiss of Trump's ring deals a disastrous blow to the truth. Zuckerberg is not winning by innovating. He is winning by playing politics. Meta's core products, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. 90% of us use this. Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. All my communications for the Sajus on WhatsApp. All of us use it. Are increasingly filled with AI-generated garbage, spam, and frauds. Removing content moderation and fact-checking is likely to make them worse, forcing all of us who are Meta's platform users to fight harder to find truthful, reliable information amid the deluge of drug means slush. Another data, about 40% of young adults in the United States regularly get news from TikTok. And researchers find evidence that TikTok algorithm systematically manipulates information to present users with a pro-China view of the world. This was reported in New York Times on 24th. So 40% of the American youth is going to be misled. That is where the real crisis is. What's happening to Christianity? The context, I'm still on the context. We live in a post-Christendom world. Nuns increase. You know what nuns are, no? People who say they don't believe in anything. Every year they are increasing, 20%, 30%. They don't believe in any religion. There's a cascade of headlines in recent years and churches staining the church's reputation, including sex abuse scandals in the Roman Catholic Church. Indian Catholic Church become absolutely slavish and fearful. Absolutely. You really feel sick of our leaders who lick the feet of the leaders. One of my bishops was a very good friend of mine. He spoke very highly in public, and the video became very viral, praising the chief minister, a good friend of mine. We like each other, but he spoke of Pinarayi Vijayan so highly. I immediately sent a message to Father Bishop, what are you doing? Pinarayi Vijayan is a corrupt and most cruel type of a. And then you know what the bishop says, no, there is only one side of it. He is also doing a lot of good things. I mean, the naivete of bishops like that. Anyway, I'm sorry, I was not supposed to criticize them. So. Now, what is the call to religious? Go back to the sources. I have these things, I'm sure most of you would have read that also, so I don't read that in detail, but Vatican II repeatedly told us, go back to the sources. And go back to the sources means, just like the Archbishop reminded us, and Father Saju rightly said, go back to Jesus. Not the Jesus of the what do you call the high ring king who is adorned in the chapel. Jesus is somewhere on the corridor. I found Jesus is still around in the poor, or like Tagore said, Jesus who is in the among those who farm in the earth, those who crack the stones, etc. So I'm going to give you 1 minute just to talk among yourself, and I want you to ask one question. As you listen to this context, and I'm putting together what the Archbishop said and I said together, what is one call that you feel? Just share for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, just sit around, just pull your chair around and that's it. As you listen to this one, and in the second part, I will give you some thoughts on the challenges I feel, but what is the one call that you feel? So you just take 5 minutes maximum, 2 to 3 minutes, there's one call that you hear. One more minute to conclude what you're saying. In any group who wants to share 1 word or 2 words, just raise your hand, I'll give you the mic. So here's the first group.
To be authentic to our calling. To be authentic to our call and be committed to it. As religious, as consecrated people, what I feel.
Thank you. Yeah.
Go to the source.
Go to the source. Okay.
Through our educational ministry, a great service with regard to formation of conscience.
Formation of conscience.
So that there will be a generation coming with a sense of right and wrong.
Okay. I have questions on that. I have problems with that. Last one, last two. Okay.
Be human and be prophetic.
Okay. Thank you.
Doing something to get back to our originality, how the Lord created us, no?
Okay.
Be it the world as well as us.
Thank you. Now I give you a few ideas, but then you can discuss. You can will be some time for interaction also the coming days, so therefore we can further reflect on this. Let me begin with, let's get concrete. At the level of understanding, I think we have an issue of identity and mission. Who am I? It's very, very important, because if I don't know who, see for example, 90% of, see for example, if somebody asks me, who am I will say, a teacher. I'm a sociology professor. I hardly say that I'm a priest, or I hardly say that I am somebody who is really following Christ. And it's very, very important for us. For practical reasons, to survive in the Northeast, probably you might say, look, we may not say that, but see, it is a sense of identity and the mission that is going to create a difference for us. And I have a problem here. See, mission and ministry are not the same. of us, unfortunately, mistake ministry for mission. For example, what is your mission? Running schools, educating people. That's not a mission, that's a ministry. And makes a huge difference. And about your forming conscience, at least 4 or 5 ministers of our Modi ministry is formed by Jesuits. At least 4 or 5 of them. You go to them, they will give you a nice cup of coffee. Father, why did you come? I would have come there, and send you back home. I am a sociologist of education, and I have very serious doubt about how formal education as we do today can really change people. But then that's a whole issue of discussion. But let us not, for practical reasons in India, we probably need to run schools in order to get the money for other ministries and also to have an identity every. But that is not our ministry. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Therefore, understanding vows in their deeper meaning and the call to reimagine and restructure. We have followed something that has been given to us and we're following it for years and years, and we are not changing. We need to do that. And it's very difficult. Then, be willing to take risks, promote diversity, innovation. We need to have diversity, otherwise we don't. We only are more used to what is common for us. And this lady, this is the way we need to be. I'm sure most of you have seen the clippings, otherwise please go back and that is where a man like the most powerful leader, she looks at him and says, be merciful. I wish we were doing that. I wish we were doing that. That image is more than enough how to be. Be religiously political and politically religious. And I am quoting Pope Francis here, In Fratelli Tutti, he says, once again I invite us to re-evaluate politics, which is a very high vocation. It's one of the most precious forms of charitable because it seeks the common good. And read along with that quotation from Elie Wiesel, what do you pronounce that, the Nobel laureate. He says, always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. We need to really speak up. And I'm not asking all of us to go around like the Pentecostals do on the roadside and speak up. Speak up in our little groups. Can we create little pockets of awareness? How many of you have heard the story? There's an old story. Sadhujan may have heard it from myself earlier. 100 monkey phenomenon. Anybody has heard? Nobody? Why? It's an old story, but I'll conclude with 100 monkey phenomenon, right? Okay, let me not distract now. But remind me to hear the story of this. So, always take sides. Then, attend to community life. Carry sense of belonging and community. We religious think, if you are a good missionary, no, people are looking at the way we are living.
We need you to get back to the community. If you are a happy community, I still remember my good old days when we were doing youth camps. At the end of the camp, what the boys and girls used to say? Father, brother, those days we were brothers. Brother, what we liked is the way you work together. The way you fought with each other and yet you conducted the camp. They forgot all the lessons we taught. They remembered the way we were working together. It was always a team of 4 or 5 of us. So they're looking at our communities. We may run an excellent school as a principal, but if the community is a mess, people don't believe us. Attend to the community. And we are all provincials. We are all provincials. Remember, ask whether in your province you allow preachers and storytellers, whether you allow teachers and servants, or do you have martyrs and prophets? Or you want everybody to be teachers? You want everybody to be preachers? So therefore see whether you create a space for prophets, rebels. Don't immediately send canonical letter of warning. First letter, second letter, no. Allow some to be crazy. But make sure that they do something according to the Bible, according to Jesus' teaching. Collaborate, network, and none will be ruined. You'll be amazed how religious are now competing with each other, running schools and I won't tell you which province. One of the provinces asked for a permission to start a school within the one kilometer away from the nun school, which are running very well. Said, no, what are you doing? The sisters are running a good school. We don't need a school. If you, some of you may have listened to Justice Quillian Joseph, one of the most respected judges, Catholic judges in the country. Once he said, if any religious now starts a school, except in the most remotest villages of the country, you are doing a sin. And I believe him. Unless it is the most remotest school, if you start a school now, we are doing it for be pilgrims of hope. What Archbishop concluded, even for the Sajos concluded. We need to be really pilgrims of hope. And not the least, pray more in modes that are transformative. This is very, very important because, I don't know, sometimes most of our religious lives become very routine prayer. Do we pray in modes that are transformative? Does the prayer transform us? We had in Malayalam, some of you Kerala, you know, a Tambaran Jadan means Tambaran Jadan, how will we translate? I mean, he was a senior in my parish. He used to be every day at Mass at 6:30 in the morning. He will come for Mass, take communion, and then he go to his farm, rural villages. One fine morning he comes for Mass, and then he goes back. He has a fight with the neighbor on a little bit of the border, and he gives a hit with his spade, and the fellow dies. So people started asking, Tambaran Jadan doing this one? After all these masses and prayers, he is doing this one? So a good question for us would be, is our prayer transformative enough? And finally, Pope Francis reminds us, as we journey towards the Holy Year, I urge everyone to become pilgrims of hope. What all the three of us have been saying repeatedly. Setting tangible goals for a better future. This is what is important. Tangible goals for the province, for the congregation, of change. And in this we need to stand together in him or her who promised us. The her is added by me. So, Pope, I shall be with you always till the end of time. Thank you so much, and now over to you for your questions.
Thank you.
So good people are listening. It is actually a semi-research kind of a thing, sociological research. See, in some of the forests of Japan, monkeys were dying out because they had no food. And Japanese, they are very, very brilliant. What they did was they started dropping sweet potatoes. But unfortunately, these sweet potatoes are falling in this
marshy, smelly land, so monkeys would come, smell, and they walk away. They won't eat. But Japanese are consistent. No? They kept on dropping, monkeys would come and go away. But one day something happened. One little monkey, changes began with a little monkey. So the little monkey started playing with this one, and it fell into the little stream that was there, very little water. And suddenly he noticed that the color had changed and become cleaner. He took and bit it, and it was sweet. For the first time in that forest, this one monkey learned to take sweet potato, wash and eat. His friend saw it. He learned it. His third friend saw it. But then this went on. But then, one day, one miracle happened. If they were to learn one by one, it would have taken maybe 1 or 2 years, and many monkeys would have died. One fine morning, all the monkeys learned it. So this is where the hypothesis comes. The hypothesis is called 100 monkey phenomenon. You can Google it, you will get it. The hypothesis says, suppose there were 1,000 monkeys in that forest. When the 99th monkey learned this process of washing and eating, it released some psychological energy by which everybody learned. So for us also, in the process of forming conscience, educating people, converting people, we need to work to the level of discovering the 100 monkey. Till then we need to go. We don't know who the 100 monkey is, but we continue to search for the 100 monkey, teaching, sharing, so that we can make a change. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Father George, for that inspiring and thought-provoking conversation. It's already 12:36, 37. We should have closed as per the schedule at 12:30. But then the next session is at 3 o'clock. So we'll take another 10 minutes at least, just to have a couple of questions being addressed from ourselves. May I request Your Grace and Father George to go up on stage, and Father Steve also will be there, please.
Both the speakers have done justice to the theme that was given, the topic that was given. They spoke so well, and also challenged us as consecrated people here in India, the different things that we can do, the difficulties we face, but still we can take up those challenges in our lives as religious. I would like to thank both the speakers for their wonderful talk. And now I invite you, brothers, I call you brothers, you're all brothers as consecrated people. If you have any questions to ask our speakers, without taking much time, we will take around 15 minutes. But before that, I would request all of you to give a big round of applause to the speakers of today. Thank you very much. You want me to say? Thank you. Questions, please. Yes, please. If you could stand and
both His Grace the Archbishop and Reverend Father N.K. George, they were beautifully elaborating to us the situation today that we are in and the problems that we are facing, and Father N.K. George specifically mentioned the way forward, that we need to encourage prophets, encourage preachers and thinkers. What I have realized over the years, after being in religious life for 45 years, that we are so structured that we cannot have prophets except the leaders. Because anybody raising a voice from any religious congregation, they will say, who gave you the authority to speak? Who gave? Now I am the spokesperson of the Salesians at the South Asia level, but so nobody speaks. issues are about Manipur, issues are in different parts of the country, but like the lady who spoke, I mean the bishop, Episcopal bishop, I have seen some of these Protestant pastors, because they have no one to fear. But we religious people will be frightened of our superior general, we will be frightened of our provincials, because as the ordinary confrere, they may have many things to write, many things to speak. But when will we open the doors of our congregations and the provinces where individuals will write, will preach and will question, even the superiors?
So we invite also some remarks. If you want to add something, we don't have much time, so we'll take the next question and we will answer it together. Anybody else, any question or remark you want to make? Yes. Please tell your name and then we'll go.
I am Giorgio Joseph, CST. I just want to ask a question, very pertinent. Our apostolic nuncio just recently made a comment that to the Indian bishops, don't be just fans of Jesus, but be his disciples. And does it not matter to us also? And are we really failing to witness Christ rather than propagating religion? And this witnessing aspect of authentic discipleship is really, and religious are in a way called to be the prophetic witness. And where are we failing? That is my question. I think we all may be asking the question, but do we have something to be complete?
Anyone else? Yes.
My name is Father Bichu Vadakar, CMI. I do agree with Father, as I said, if someone come out of for some cause or for the truth, there can be a lot of questioning. Even the major superiors or the individual can be send some message from the higher authorities. We are not able to come out of this situation. So it is always easy to say that we have to come out of the situation, you have to be with the people and you have to stand for the truth. So do we have any kind of common suggestion or a solution for this kind of thing?
I think you can answer it. Sure.
My answer is simple. I already gave an answer when I was speaking. I personally don't stand for outright denunciations, as though I'm right, you're wrong, and humiliation of the opponent. We must win him over. That is also part of our Christian approach, in my opinion. So when, because of one-sided dimension of our personality, or that we denounce rather than make people think in contextually, take responsible for whatever statement. Either you say the cardinal should have said that, cardinal has to be responsible to his own diocese, to entire, for example, of Bombay, to the entire Indian people for the mistaken approach that he would make. So, as a free person, I can say he should have said this. I would say, let him act according to his conscience and his sense of responsibility. Because the speaker will have to take responsibility for the consequence of what he says. As he can take personally, but one in authority, what he said little, he has to take responsibility for those activities that depend on him as well. People who depend on him. So in other words, I never favor outright denunciation. The time of youth, I remember that was one of the style. I was a youth chaplain. I've always stood for, not these people as a whole were not for outright denunciation. making people think and take responsibility for what you say. This is what I would tell. This is what possible for every member, including the humblest member in society, in the congregation.
I don't believe in giving answers to reflections like this. But we are fortunate in one thing. The Synod on Synodality has opened a way for us. Namely, we as a group, maybe as a religious community, or maybe as a parish, maybe as just our friends, have something powerful tool called discernment in common. So my dream is where our religious houses and communities can become groups which will say, are we running the school the way it should be run? Are we running the parish the way we are running? Does the context demand something from us different? So that we sit together, pray together, and discern together and find a new way. And even what the Synod on Synodality showed is that even such a big group can become a forum for. So the whole province can become a forum for a discernment in common. For that we need to train ourselves, we need to pray more, we need to learn the skill of spiritual conversations, and we need to listen more. And therefore my only response is, let us as smaller groups and bigger groups discern in common and ask the Spirit, trust the Spirit, that the Spirit will teach us, tell us where to go.
Thank you, Father. I think it's time, and once again, let's give a big clap to the speakers. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thanks to Father Steve too. So without much delay, I welcome Father Susaimani to give word of thanks.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure all of us are hungry. It's not a time for a lengthy word of thanks. I would like to thank Father M.K. George. The Jesuits provincials, we meet twice a year. Last week of February and last week of October. That's fixed forever. So this time actually Father will be busy visiting provinces. But he was kind enough to come and be with us, so I'm really grateful to him. Thank you for George for coming. So he has put us into a very scary context, both Bishop Swami and K. George. And it's really disturbing and challenging. We do not know where we are going to end up. So it's definitely a context which is very challenging our own identity and mission. At the same time, George has given us a roadmap in which direction can we go. Living our life authentically, allowing creativity, forging collaboration and network, and becoming pilgrims at home. Before a call to a transformative life, these are some of the salient things that we need to take forward. When he asked what would be the one word or one call, for spontaneously came to him was, let's get wounded. Today in Indian context, we are scared of speaking out because we could be jailed anytime. Maybe we have, as a church, we have to get wounded by what we are going to say and stand. Therefore, your presentation has been very creative, impactful, and disruptive. So that's what has to happen in our church today. So thank you so much, and thank you.
Thank you, Father. We will move for our lunch.
The book certainly is by his team.
We thank His Grace for sharing with us a copy of his book, Servant Leader. He has freely shared it with us, so thank you very much. And one good thing, both His Grace Thomas Menamparable and Father M.K. George will be with us today and tomorrow. Archbishop will be leaving tomorrow, and Father M.K. George day after tomorrow by noon only he would leave. So we could engage them in conversation as the program progresses. Thank you very much. We'll proceed for lunch. At 3 o'clock we restart. Please be here in the hall at least 5 minutes early. Thank you.
this time. Otherwise,